And remain standing for an invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Lord, Heavenly Father, we come before you tonight as one body. We ask that you be with us, guide us, give us your wisdom. Help us make decisions based on the community as a whole and not on individuals. Let us work together as a whole and not as individuals. During this time of year, we all seem to have a little happier step as we walk around. We tend to smile a little more. We talk to strangers with a kinder voice. We ask that you give us that ability to do that year-round. We also ask that at this time of year, during the holidays, as we gather with our families, we think of our troops around the world, protecting our freedoms that we enjoy. We ask that you be with them, be with their families as they're separated during these special times. The memories that they won't be able to share, and they'll have to gain at another time. Please protect them, guide them, and give them strength to continue on and move forward. We ask all of this in your name. Amen.
Amen. I got the noisy chair.
Roll call, please.
Carl Johnson.
Here.
Sherry Bartelt.
Here.
Jeff Carlisle.
Here.
Denny Ellingson.
Here.
Sherry Gieske.
Here.
Carl Larson.
Here.
Ray Larson.
Here.
Jessica Muehlner.
Here.
Marshall Newhouse.
Here.
Bernard O'Malley.
Here.
Brad Stark.
Here.
Kathy Ward.
Here.
It's time I'd accept a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Carlisle,
Second.
or second by Mr. Stark. Ken, is there anything we need to change or add?
No.
Okay. All those in favor of the agenda as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I would accept a motion to approve the November 14th County Board minutes and the December 3rd organizational meeting minutes.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Carlisle, seconded by Mr. Ellingson. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, we have one appointment. It is for, I don't remember who it was. It's to the 911 board for Sean Shadley. This position is to fill a recently vacated position by Captain Greg Holmes, who retired from the Belvidere Fire Department. This position on the 911 board is to be held by someone from the Belvidere Fire Department, so the sheriff has requested that Sean Shadley be appointed there. I would accept a motion to approve that appointment.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Gieske. Is there a second? Second. By Mr. Ellingson. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next up, public comment. I have two so far. Again, if there's anybody else in the audience who would like to talk, please feel free to fill out a form and bring it up here, and we'll give you a microphone. First up, I have Rebecca Los. Yes. Certainly, if you could just come up to the podium, please. And we probably want you to go ahead and fill one of these out.
I did.
Oh, did you? Okay, you're Pam. Okay.
One out for myself.
Okay, I'm sorry. So you'll read hers, and then you'll talk for yourself also? Okay, certainly. So I guess go ahead and just state your name and address to the microphone, and just make sure you hold it up really, really close and talk directly into it, please.
My name is Mrs. Pamela Gustafson, and I live at 9637 Poplar Grove Road. And I, along with Rebecca,
are concerned about the intersection at Poplar Grove Road and Squaw Prairie.
Mrs. Gustafson, if I could just stop, if you could just, like that, exactly.
Okay,
I'm
yeah,
sorry, otherwise it just
Thank
doesn't
you.
record or they can't hear you.
As I said, Rebecca is unable to be here tonight due to work restrictions, and so I am going to read what she has proposed to have put forth to the board. Through this letter, I would like to publicly address the Boone County Board about my concerns with the intersection at Poplar Grove Road and Squaw Prairie Road. I am Rebecca Lose, and I have lived in Boone County for most of my life. 34 of my 60 years I have lived within a quarter of a mile from this intersection. In the last 2 days, I have spoken to most of the board members about the escalating occurrence and severity of these accidents. In talking to board members, the general consensus is that you know it is very dangerous too. The intersection has been on your radar and discussed in past meetings over the years. In just the last 29 days, we have had 3 accidents, 1 fatality and serious injuries to those involved. But let's keep talking about it. There is talk that an engineering study needs to be done to evaluate the situation at this intersection. I feel we have enough data. There have been approximately 41 accidents in 10 years, 19 with injuries and 2 fatalities. As our county grows, so does the traffic, and so will the accidents. As someone who personally was involved in one of these accidents in 2017, I feel I need to be heard, and I am glad that I am alive to be heard. The accident I was in involved 3 vehicles. Long story short, the girl at fault thought it was a 4-way stop and pulled out in front of a vehicle traveling south on Poplar Grove Road. Per statement from the man traveling south, I couldn't stop. I hit her going about 55 miles per hour. He totaled the at-fault car and then spun around and hit my 85-year-old father and I sitting at the stop sign. And yes, my car was totaled also. Luckily, the people who were involved in this accident did not suffer any serious injuries. But I want to voice my concerns for the people that have been killed or have sustained serious injuries at this dangerous intersection. Victims and their families' lives have been changed forever due to this intersection. Many of the accidents that occur at this intersection involve people stopping and pulling out in front of oncoming traffic, or they do not stop at all. This issue can continue to be talked about at meetings. Plans for a study that will cost the county thousands of dollars can be discussed. Time will continue to be wasted and lives will continue to be changed forever as the accidents continue at this intersection. The county board has the ability to lessen the number and severity of the accidents occurring at this intersection. The county board has a responsibility to keep the residents of Boone County safe. The county board needs to remember the victims and the families that have been directly affected by these accidents. This is happening on your watch, but let's continue to waste time. The county board needs to act sooner than later. We don't have time to wait on expensive studies. The next accident could be my loved one. It could be your loved one. Do the members of the county board really want to continue talking about this, or do you want to start saving people now? The county board has the power to vote in a 4-way stop at this intersection. And as a member of the board, you can do it tonight. Thank you, Rebecca Lose. My name is Pamela Gustafson. I live at 9637 Poplar Grove Road. I am also known as the Intersection Police. I have lived at this address since September of 1993. I have been working on trying to make this intersection safe for over 20 years. Including 11/20, the day of the fatal accident, we have had a total of 3 accidents, 12/9 and 12/16, in less than a month. The 12/9 accident was very serious, but no fatality. After the accident on 12/16, I was very discouraged and thought, why am I doing this? Why am I getting involved in more than one way? And why am I putting myself through all of this stress? As my Irish setter and I were going to my exercise class that morning, a very funny incident happened in my barnyard involving my dog, and I thanked her very much for making me laugh. I then felt better. I wish I could tell you what the incident was, but Justin knows what it is, but it was just marvelous. It felt so good after we left home. At the Sunday night accident, I met Deputy Dave. I think his name was something like Frank, so I apologize if I don't have his names pronounced correctly. And he encouraged me about 3 times not to give up my fight. Many deputies and firemen over the years have also encouraged me. While standing there at that accident, Mrs. Lose walked up to the intersection on 1216 and said to me, "Pam, you need help." For the past 1.5 days, she talked to the county board members, passed out a flyer, and visited a number of houses in the neighborhood. The neighborhood is now getting involved, and I thank them very much. I also want to thank Brad Stark and his committee, Sheriff Dave, County Engineer Justin, Ken Terraroni, and Bonus Township officials for their support and help, and anybody else that I've missed. I am hopeful that the county board will now see that we have a dangerous intersection on Poplar Grove and Squaw Prairie roads. I'm not sure that Mrs. Hunt and I can take much more of this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Is there any other public comment? Okay, seeing none. Council on Aging.
Just have a short report. We did meet Monday night, and they're working on getting the new transportation office up and ready so they can fully staff it and try and keep the buses running on task and as efficiently as possible.
Thank you very much. Growth Dimensions, their meeting is actually right now. They're having their Christmas party right now, so no report from them. CASA, Charlotte, you're here.
All right. My name is Charlotte Meyer. I'm the director of Boone County CASA. We train citizens, community members to advocate for the abused, neglected children in our community. We are currently advocating for 38 children. We had one case closed with 2 small children that were adopted recently. Better? Okay. So we are serving the 38 children right now. We do have 22 advocates with 19 having cases. We do have a new training session starting the middle to end of January. So if you're interested, by all means, give me a call at the CASA office and we can sign you up. Other than that, we are just getting ready for activities and events this upcoming year. I did attach a sheet for one of our events coming up. It's a new thing that we're doing. It's a 4 Icons show. Has performers that are impersonating Patsy Cline, Roy Orbison, John Denver, and Neil Diamond. It's on Sunday, February 24th at the Community Building. Tickets are only $15, and they'll be sold at the door or through the CASA website. So if you're interested in coming to that, by all means do, or if you know somebody who would like to sponsor the event, they can also contact me at the CASA office. That's it.
Any questions? Charlotte, I see you're not going to be involved in the singing at all? Or?
Yeah, no.
No, okay.
I'm not looking to scare anybody away. So.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Next up, RPC. Ken, I think you attended that meeting.
Yes, attended the meeting December 12th. There is a meeting regarding that passenger rail referendum on February the 8th at Giovanni's. I don't have a time, but if you're interested, I can get an email out when I know about that. So that was one of the more important things at that meeting. So,
Okay. And you'll make sure all board members get an email on that? Okay, thank you. Any questions for Ken on that? Super. Next up, general consents. I would accept a motion for the general consent items.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Newhouse.
Second.
There's a second by Mr. Larson. Ms. Ward did approach me. She would like to pull out one of the items.
Yes.
Ms.
I would
Ward?
like to take out the public safety sales tax transfer. I just talked to Mr. Ken Perinoni, and the building is totally paid for now.
Okay, so you would like to vote on that one separately?
Separately.
Okay, we will do that for you. Unless there's any objections. Okay. Let's, all those in favor of the general consent items except for the public safety sales tax transfer signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, I would accept a motion to approve the transfer of $1,507,162 from the Series 2012 Bond Public Safety Tax to the general fund.
So moved.
Motion by
Second.
Ms. Gieske, seconded by Ms. Milner. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Sherry Bartelt,
Yes.
Jeff Carlisle,
Yes.
Denny Ellingson,
Yes.
Sherry Gieske,
Yes.
Carl Larson,
Yes.
Ray Larson,
Aye.
Jessica Muehlner,
Yes.
Marshall Newhouse,
Yes.
Bernard O'Malley,
Yes.
Brad Stark,
Yes.
Kathy Ward,
No.
Carl Johnson.
Yes. Motion carries. Next up, PZB. Mr. Ellings.
Are you ready?
You've got a short agenda tonight, I see, so.
Yes, we do. Hardly.
Ms. Gieske, you have a quick question?
Did we skip the health
Oh, you know what?
on purpose, or did?
I'm sorry. Amanda's going to throw things at me. Where did she go? I'm sorry, Amanda. Come on down.
And I'm sorry too, Amanda.
Thanks, Sherry.
You thought you were getting out of it.
All right, well, happy holidays to everyone. I'm Amanda with the Boone County Health Department.
Amanda,
I'm sorry,
you need your microphone.
I'm not loud enough.
Well, we have to record it,
Yes.
so.
And so I'm going to just start out with something fun here, do a couple of trivia questions, and give you a recap on what's been happening at the health department over the last calendar year. So I'm going to pass these around. So you get the idea, right? We're not going to go through all 12 verses. This is some helpful information. Some helpful information for the holiday season. Talks a little bit about some of the primary roles and responsibilities of the local, state, and federal public health systems. And as a reminder, what we often talk about during my report is the fact that public health in Boone County, in the state of Illinois, and across the nation is not the Boone County Health Department. It is a system and network of collaborators that are working to ensure public safety and the livelihood and well-being of our community and our residents here in Boone County. And so the CDC has top 10 public health achievements of the 20th century, and I'd like to pose the question to the board if anyone can name what one of those top 10 public health achievements was in the 20th century.
Polio eradication.
So control of infectious diseases, which include immunizations. Absolutely. You want to name another one?
Doc O'Malley, we're leaning on you hard on this one.
Well, there's so many. Where do you start?
There are so many. The top 10 include things such as motor vehicle safety, workplace safety, so OSHA and OSHA regulations, healthier moms and babies, reduction of tobacco use, so the Smoke-Free Illinois Act would have been a major piece of legislation that would be considered a public health achievement, and safe and healthier foods. So as you see on your 12 days of CDC Christmas, we recommend that you cook your turkey thoroughly and well this holiday season. One other piece of trivia. Can anyone name an object that shaped public health?
Seatbelt.
Yes. The seatbelt. Anybody else?
Airbag.
Airbags. Yep, so anything related to car or motor vehicle safety. You're catching on. Absolutely. Speed limits. I heard somebody say speed limits. How about the mosquito net? A simple and inexpensive $2.50 a piece of equipment protects communities against mosquito-borne illnesses such as malaria, dengue, West Nile virus, etc. Anybody else have one? Do one more? How about fluoride toothpaste? Or to put that turkey after you've eaten your Christmas meal, the refrigerator would have been considered to be an object that shaped public health because keeping food at proper temperature was not always a thing that we had available to us back in the old days. So just a few fun examples. I do want to highlight a couple of activities related to transportation since we're on the topic of motor vehicle safety that the Health Department is working with the Region 1 Planning Council and the Rockford Mass Transportation District on 2 surveys. And I will send these links in emails to everyone on the county board. But there is a 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan that's being put together for Boone and Winnebago counties. And there's information here on the press release that went out from the Region 1 Planning Council. I would encourage all of you as local policy makers to take this survey because the voice of our community here in Boone is important as the greater Rockford region makes decisions related to transportation, whether it's via bike, via our own 2 feet, or via automobile or other forms of public transportation. The other survey that is in effect right now that would be very helpful if you all could pass out to the respective organizations that you're involved with, but also to the public, is the RMTD Transit Survey. And I will pass around an example of this. It's a short 2-page survey that anyone residing or working in Boone and Winnebago counties through the month of January are being encouraged to participate in. Access to health and human services, it was identified in our 2018 Community Health Improvement Plan, or our I-Plan. And so with access to care, one of the top barriers to receiving care in the community is transportation or reliable access to transportation. So I would encourage all of you to click on the link in the email that I will send you and take this survey. You can also fill it out paper and pencil and drop it off at the Health Department. The Keen Age Center is also a drop site for paper and pencil surveys if you all would like to leave it there. Please push this out to members of the public. We encourage their participation, and we'd like Boone County's voice to be heard as funding and allocation on spending goes forward, whether it be expanding bus routes, expanding hours of operation, expanding into the northern part of our county, expanding into our surrounding counties, McHenry, or up into Wisconsin, where many of our residents need to be able to get to for needed services and health care. Any questions?
Questions for Amanda? Mr. Newhouse?
Can I go back to your 12 Ways of Health survey here? I seem to be in conflict with the 5th item. I get 1 cigar a year on New Year's Eve, and I find it very, it decreases stress. And so I'm wondering, are you lobbying for 100% participation all the time, or are there any allowances?
I believe the statement says in bold print and underlined, be smoke-free.
Okay, never mind, sir.
Maybe that falls under don't ask the question if you don't want to hear the answer. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Any other questions for Amanda? I see none. Thank you very much.
So my
Amanda.
goal was to make a few of you smile this evening, and I've achieved that. So have a Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Thank you. You too. I don't think I've missed anything else, have I, Ms. Gieske?
Not yet.
It's still early. Yes. All right. Denny, I think you're really up now.
We'll try again, huh? All right. 9.1 is a motion to approve case number 35-2018 Evanston Candlewick replat.
Motion by Mr. Ellingson.
Second.
Is there a second? By Mr. Stark. Staff report.
This is a replat in Candlewick Lake, 2 lots becoming 1 lot. The county in the past has approved these without much discussion, and it's pretty straightforward. So when we have the replat documents that we require for you to vote.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Jeff Carlisle,
Yes.
Denny Ellingson,
Yes.
Sherry Gieske,
Yes.
Carl Larson,
Yes.
Ray Larson,
Aye.
Jessica Milner,
Yes.
Marshall Newhouse,
Yes.
Bernard O'Malley,
Yes.
Brad Stark,
Yes.
Kathy Ward,
Yes.
Carl Johnson,
Yes.
Sherry Bartelt.
Yes.
Motion carries. Mr. Ellingson.
9.2 is a motion to approve case number 36-2018 Bragmas Candlewick replat.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Ellingson, second by Mr. Stark. Staff report.
Same as before, this is another replat in Candlewick Lake, 2 lots becoming 1. Passed committee without much discussion, and in the past, the county has approved these replats.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Denny Ellingson,
Yes.
Sherry Gieske,
Yes.
Carl Larson,
Yes.
Ray Larson,
Aye.
Jessica Milner,
Yes.
Marshall Newhouse,
Yes.
Bernard O'Malley,
Yes.
Brad Stark,
Yes.
Kathy Ward,
Yes.
Carl Johnson,
Yes.
Sherry Bartelt,
Yes.
Jeff Carlisle.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, 9.3 is a motion to approve case number 37-2018 Simons Candlewick replat.
Motion by Mr. Ellingson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Gieske. It appears that this is the same thing, right, Mr. Ternoni? Another replat. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Sherry Gieske,
Yes.
Carl Larson,
Yes.
Ray Larson,
Aye.
Jessica Milner,
Yes.
Marshall Newhouse,
Yes.
Bernard O'Malley,
Yes.
Brad Stark,
Yes.
Kathy Ward,
Yes.
Carl Johnson,
Yes.
Sherry Bartelt,
Yes.
Jeff Carlisle,
Yes.
Denny Ellingson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
9.4 is a motion to approve ordinance 19-01, case number 25-2018 for Boone Solar.
Motion by
Second.
Mr. Ellingson, seconded by Mr. Stark. Staff report.
I'd like to draw your attention on board docs to ordinance 1901, what I call the PZB version. The PZB version has the decommissioning component per the recommendation out of the Zoning Board of Appeals, which is the 100% bond. So just drawing note to that. The other projects you have approved, you've gone with the graduated scale. But this, at the, December 4th PZB, this particular version is what came out of committee. The other thing I'd like to draw your attention to is the location of this proposed development along 173. There was much discussion at committee about the 173 plan that envisions possibly maybe some route expansions. And I've talked to the applicant, and previously with a similar case, the Goad case, the board had a condition that the applicant must comply with the Boone County Illinois Route 173 corridor plan. So I offer that as a condition, and to my understanding, the applicant is in agreement with that condition.
Okay. Anything further?
This is one of two proposed solar footprints for the Boone project. There's a northern portion and a southern portion. So you'll be asked to vote on both, and I do want to draw your attention to a revised site plan for the southern portion that's on your desk. And the applicant has taken the southern portion and tried to shrink it as much as possible, keep it as far away from Route 173 as possible. So I just draw your attention to that.
Ken, just looking at, well, I guess we can ask the applicant this when he comes up. Any questions for staff? Anything else of note? Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Gieske?
Can I go back? Ken, I'm not quite certain I understood what you said. So the decommissioning is different for this particular one. It's 100% as opposed to the graduated one
Right.
we did for others.
Right. And
I'm curious why we're treating this one differently.
well, on December the 4th, you had 4 of the 5 committee members present.
Okay.
So the motion to amend what the ZBA did and make the decommissioning consistent with what you've done in the past failed
Because it was 2-2.
because it was 2-2.
Right.
So therefore, what is before you tonight is the wording that came out of the ZBA hearing, which is the 100%. So if you don't change that, then you're not being consistent with other projects, and I just want you aware of that.
May I? And that was the point I was getting at. So this one is being treated differently, right? It's not consistent.
As a result of the committee's action, that is true, but that's the vote at a committee. I mean, the people were present, they voted. That's how they felt that night. So I just want to make it known that if you approve this particular version, you are different than the others you've approved.
Thank you.
Ms. Miller?
I would like to make a motion to amend the ordinance 19-05, condition number 23, and remove the paragraph, or ordinance -1901, sorry. Remove the paragraph, the second paragraph in condition 23 that requires 100% decommissioning, and replace it with the tiered system. Would you like me to read that onto the record, or can we just cut and paste that from other ordinances where we have that language in place, conditions A, B, and C?
What would be the desire of the state's attorney? Use your microphone.
Yeah.
I believe that that language is on a board docs under this case.
Yes.
Somewhere.
Yes, there is.
Tony could
Yes.
maybe direct the board members to that.
Sure. So if we go back to board docs and look at what's called Ordinance 1901, this version, if it's adopted, would be the consistent version with how you've done it in the past with the graduated decommissioning. So let me find that language.
So perhaps if...
So it would be version 1901, not 1901
That's
PZB.
correct. That's correct. If you just switch versions, that fixes it too.
Ms. Miller?
I would like to amend my motion then that we adopt 1901.
Okay, we have an amendment to the motion by Ms. Milner to adopt version 1901 instead of version 1901 PZB. That's seconded by Mr. Stark. Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, so we will be discussing version 1901 for this particular project. Any further discussion for staff or questions for staff? Ken, you have something?
Just drawing your attention to the memo on the additional condition I'm respectfully asking for, that they must comply with 173.
And that is not on the 1901 version, correct?
It is not, so it would have to be added.
All right. And that's the 173 plan, you said? Okay. Okay. Mr. Newhouse.
Just so I'm sure, Ken, this 1901 case that we're dealing with now, this is the northern one or the southern one of the two?
Northern.
And is this one being changed also for the 173 plan, or is the amendment that's being considered for that the southern one, or are both of them in need of that issue?
Just to be consistent, I would do both.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to amend the motion to include the words under an additional condition, applicant must comply with the Boone County, Illinois Route 173 corridor plan.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Newhouse, seconded by Ms. Milner. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Any further discussion from the board to staff or questions for staff? Is the applicant here? Would the applicant like to make any statements? Once again, just make sure you hold the microphone close and talk directly in it, please.
Hello, I'm Liz Reddington. I'm from Pivot Energy, who is the applicant. We also have the landowners here present, and they'd like to say a few short words as well. But we would just like to remind you that, yes, this is two different co-located gardens. We've amended our plans to adjust to neighbor concerns and also to the 173 corridor plan. And so from the right-of-way, we would be 75 feet from the right-of-way for both the north and south section. And in total, from the residence to the north, we would be 400 or 370 feet away to our project boundary, which is a significant residential setback for the project. So from the property line, we are 100 feet away from the residential property line to the north. And then we adhere to the right-of-way setbacks along 173, and then the general side setbacks of 40 feet on the west side of both of the projects. So again, we'd like you to consider approving both. This is a lottery within the state of Illinois, so we'd like our chances to be able to submit both, but you also have the ability to just approve one as well. And then we also have the landowner here as well to say a few short words. I've told him to be very short.
Okay. Before you go away here, I do have a question just regarding the two prints that we have in front of us, our site plans. The second sheet, is that just, I don't see any difference in the setbacks from the road of 173 at all. Is that just simply a way that if we wanted to approve one, you'd prefer it be the southern one, or?
Yes.
I guess.
So if you were to approve one, it would be a southern portion of the array, which is depicted in that second plan. So we would still have all of the proper setbacks. It would just be the furthest south.
Okay. Okay. Any questions from the board at this moment? Mr. Ellingson?
Yeah, I guess in looking at the map on the curve, I believe there's a property across the road.
A part of the landowner's property?
Well, across the highway. It isn't part of the landowner's property, but across from that, there's a house on that curve on the other side.
On the other side of the two-lane highway.
The measurement you gave of, 375 feet was from the property to the north?
Yes.
Of it? Okay, how far would you be from the one across the road?
So we would be 145 feet.
Okay. Just want to make sure everybody noticed that on it.
Okay. Any further questions at this time from board? Okay. And you said the landowner's here, and he'd like to say a few words? If you could just state your name and address for the record, but make sure you talk real close and directly into the microphone, please.
Ken Hartman. My address is 1204 Bridget Court, Fontana, Wisconsin. I'm here to speak on the solar farm proposal at Centerville Road that they're talking about on the outskirts of Capron. And at the Zoning and Planning Board meetings the members had a few concerns on our site that our company, Pivot Energy, has since addressed with the county administrator. Our site plan has been updated for the Route 173 corridor area as well as the neighbors. We have scaled the site back and included more visual plant screenings. Due to the low profile panels and the tree plantings, we feel this is a much better view than something that is commercial, since this parcel is already slated for future planned business use. Our company is aware of the future Route 173 corridor, and after recently talking with the county staff, they assured us that we are well within all of the required setbacks. Our family is very interested in the Capron community. My wife's family has lived in Capron for over 70 years, and the family still owns and occupies 10 homes within the Capron community. And statistics show that solar does not lessen property values. Solar is the future energy for many communities, and with all of the prior concerns of the zoning and planning boards being addressed or revised, we feel there should be no reason that we are not afforded the opportunity for this project to be approved and to bring a cleaner energy source to Boone County. Thank you.
Any questions for the landowner? Okay, thank you, sir. Does the applicant have anything further they want to add? Nope. Any further discussion from the board? All right. Roll call, please. This is the amended motion. Concurs with the decommissioning is concurrent with 1901, and it also includes an amendment to the County 173 plan. Roll call, please.
Carl Larson,
Yes.
Ray Larson,
Aye.
Jessica Mueller,
Yes.
Marshall Newhouse,
No.
Bernard O'Malley,
Yes.
Brad Stark,
Yes.
Kathy Ward,
Yes.
Carl Johnson,
Yes.
Sherry Bartelt,
Yes.
Jeff Carlisle,
Yes.
Denny Ellingson,
No.
Sherry Gieske.
Yes.
Motion carries. Mr. Ellingson.
Okay, 9.5 is a motion to approve ordinance 19-02, case number 26-2018, Boone Solar 1B.
Mr. Terranoni, staff report.
Same company, same project, but this is the northern portion, or excuse me, this is the southern portion. And same procedure that PZB on December 4th approved what I call the PZB version. So that's the version that is before you tonight. And that's the version that has the decommissioning that came out of the ZBA. So I do want to, maybe if I could ask the company a question, if
Certainly.
the chairman would allow that.
Certainly.
I just want to clarify, the footprint they would vote on would be this one you passed out. Is that correct? Okay. Okay. This would be the site plan that they would be voting on. Okay. So all other factors the same except for the decommissioning. So that's the report.
Just to clarify there, that site plan is dated 6/29/18. That's what this one shows. Do you want to come?
There's a date down here. He's talking about this date here.
Oh.
Might not have been changed. You know,
Yeah.
they just redrafted it without changing any details.
Yeah, that is the original draft date, but it would have been submitted to the PZB, I believe, on the 4th.
Okay, but that's. I just want to make sure the plan date
Yes.
is correct. So this is the correct plan.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Terranoni.
I guess I have a follow-up question, if I may.
Certainly.
So the version that you sent me the other day, that's not the version that you're proposing tonight. Is that correct? Or are we reverting back to the one that you had presented?
From this page, which would have been submitted at PZB on 12/4, this is Boone Solar 1B. It's also the same footprint as this as well. The only difference for this one is we added the perimeter vegetative screening down, just to show what it would look like if it was the only one standing there. So we would still be adhering to the conditions for perimeter vegetation for either project.
Mr. Terranoni, go ahead.
And this version complies with the 173 plan as far as the setbacks and the distance. This version does meet that requirement of the 173 plan.
It does.
Okay.
So all along the curve of 173, it's going to be 75 feet or greater from the right of way.
Okay, anything else, Mr. Terranoni? Mr. Newhouse.
Just for clarification, if in January when the lottery occurs and both of these two projects, Boone Solar 1 and Boone Solar 1B, are picked, there will be no vegetation between them. Is that correct?
Correct. We would just do one.
And if in the lottery only Boone Solar 1B is selected, then there would be vegetation at the north edge. Okay.
Mr. Newhouse, go ahead.
Ken, even though the applicant has stated they will comply with the 173, are we still looking for a motion to amend about the 173 plan?
To be consistent, yes.
Okay. Mr. Newhouse.
Chairman, I would move to amend the request by adding a condition stating the applicant must comply with Boone County, Illinois 173 corridor plan.
Motion by Mr. Newhouse. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms.
I have
Milner.
a comment, though. Have we voted to move this ordinance forward?
I made a motion. I don't know if you got a second or not, did you? On the original motion?
We didn't get a second? I guess we did. Second by Mr. Stark. I thought we did. Maybe we did. Okay, so Mr. Newhouse made his motion. Ms. Milner made another second on the amendment.
The vote to move the forward.
No, we're going to vote. We're going to vote to amend.
Oh, okay.
I mean, we've got an amendment
All right.
towards it. If we vote on the original motion, then
Okay.
it would pass the way it is. Yeah. So, any discussion on the amendment? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So, version 1902 PZB version is what we are working with currently. Is that correct, Mr. Terranoni?
Right, and that's the version with the 100% decommissioning.
I'm assuming that ordinance 19-02 would be the version that had the graduated decommissioning. Okay, so, Ms. Milner?
Yeah, I would move that we would use the language in 19-02 with the graduated decommissioning in lieu of the 19-02 PZB version.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Milner, second by Ms. Gieske. Any discussion? I have a question for the state's attorney. Since we've amended the 1902 version, PZB version, is it a given that the amendment goes to the 1902 version? And just put it in? Okay. Okay. I just want to make sure we don't have to clarify in the motion.
Well, I mean, if she's just, if her motion is just to adopt
That language.
1902, then no, it would move along. But if it's to replace
The language, that's what I understood, correct? You're just
Yeah,
replacing
we're
the
just
language.
replacing the decommissioning language. Condition 23, using the language from 19-02.
Okay. All right, any further discussion? All in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Any further discussion from the board? Mr. Morse? Or Ray? Where did I got Morse? I don't know. Sorry, Ray.
Okay, for the applicant here, I think you were saying if you only, since this is two different applications, which will result in two ordinances, and you only get the permit for, say, 1B, or no, say you only get it for 1A, you're thinking you can move that to 1B? Or the number 1, I forgot, take the A out of there, sorry.
Go ahead, please.
Is that what I was hearing, maybe?
Could you repeat your question?
If you get only the or the whatever from the state, from the lottery for Boone 1, did I see something that you would like to have that moved onto the Boone 1B site?
Yes. So what we could ask in this situation is, and this we may not be able to do, but we would basically ask the board to have a condition where for this piece of land, if only one site got chosen in the lottery, you would require us to build to the south. That way we'd be further away from the neighbor to the north.
And that's something you would want from this board as a requirement, or?
I would look to your guidance on that, but at this point, I think this is the last stop, because it's very unlikely that we're going to be able to build both, even if so it's very unlikely that we would get both chosen. So in the interest of neighbor concerns, you could require us to always build our project to the south.
It's kind of.
Ms. Kieske?
Are you saying regardless of if you won the lottery on the north, you would still want to build on the south? Regardless of what happens, you want to build on the south?
So
isn't that what you were asking?
it's, I feel like I'm complicating the situation a little bit, to be honest. Because there was a lot of neighborhood concerns, we wanted to have transparency that we wouldn't build something to the north if we didn't have to, knowing that it's very unlikely that we would be building the whole entire system. And so we could ask you to just require us to always build on the south for this particular parcel. That way, because we would only get one shot of building something, it wouldn't be in that neighbor's backyard. It would be to the south, because it's an odd parcel.
Sure, I'll allow it here. Sure, come on up.
The applicant kind of cut it up.
I just need you to state your name and address for the record, please, into the microphone, and hold it real close, please.
Yes, I
Right-
am
right
Todd
direct.
Heggie.
All the way up.
I am Todd Heggie. I live at 9727 Route 173 in Capron. I am the resident that lives on that particular property. The landowner is here with me, if necessary. You pointed out earlier that if you build on the northern parcel of this, that you're going to be 300 some odd feet away from this particular individual's home, or property line or home. I was not sure which way you were wording that one. But for my residence on the south side, you're only 140 some odd feet, 145 feet away. Now you're asking that if only one of these is approved, that you keep it on the south side, and your concern is, well, now we're farther away from the north one, but you're still only 145 feet away from my home. The other thing I would like to address
is that on this particular property here, the landowner to the north, all of this is going to take place in his backyard, which is bad enough. But this stuff, quite literally, is going to be in my front yard. As I pointed out to the ZBA when I addressed them, I says, when I open up my drapes for my nice big picture window in the morning, this is what I'm going to be looking at every morning. The other thing, I says, there's 2.5 miles worth of open highway west of me until you get to the next residence that's on the highway. There is no reason this particular solar gardens need to be built right on top of the residents' homes in this area. There's wide open farmland that would probably take extra steps to be subdivided if that was necessary, but there's no homes that would be affected by this immediately. These are the points that I would like to make and address to the board. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. So getting back to what you were saying, are you asking us to put something then in this that would trigger that?
So if you approve Boone Solar 1B, it would already be to the south.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any further questions from the board? Mr. Newhouse.
At PZB, was that last week or 2 weeks ago, the other applicant who is here had an exchange with him talking about whether the state would allow projects to move much as the way we're discussing tonight. And to further that discussion, I got in an email exchange today with the Illinois Adjustable Block Program group, and I posed the question to them of whether they would allow any movement. And their answer again was, as it was the other evening at PZB, that no, there would be no allowing of movement, that each one of these applications are in and of themselves. So I would think that if the board was going to consider moving it, we consider just exactly what it is the state would have to say about something like that.
Mr. Ellingson, did you have something?
Well, that's exactly what I was going to point out, what we heard at the last meeting, and just wanted to make sure everybody understood that idea and that rule, because it appears to me that they're not going to let you transfer project for project.
Okay, Mr. Larson?
So here's what I'm looking at. What happens is this can't be moved. The Boone Solar 1 location, if that is the only one approved and it cannot be moved, is there then a vegetative buffer on the south side of that? I don't believe it's actually listed. It would be there then. Is that correct?
The condition, I believe it happened at zoning.
I need you to use the microphone. I'm sorry.
The condition that was included at the zoning board level was for perimeter fencing or vegetative screening, so we would have to have vegetative screening around them.
Okay. Any further discussion? Ms. Kieske.
Somehow I'm still very confused. I'm not certain why it rests on the shoulders of this county board to make the decision it's an either or. I don't know. I'm not quite certain how or why we would do that.
I think what Mr. Ellingson and Mr. Newhouse have pointed out is that the lottery system will not allow us to do that either or kind of thing. The lottery system is set up because it's two separate projects. If one of them gets picked, they can build it there, and if they don't want to build it there, then they don't have to build it. Period. They can't move it. the Illinois board is not going to let them take, Project 1 and move it down to the south. If they get the lottery for Project 1, it has to be built at Project 1 site. If they get Project B, it has to be built on Project B site. They're not going to let them move them anywhere.
If I might.
Sure.
So this is a moot issue.
Yes, this
from
is
the
this is
applicant.
moot.
All right,
Yep.
then I
Yep.
think we can rock on.
Mr. Ellingson.
I just want to point out that we've heard a lot of things on these from the beginning till now, and things seem to keep changing, what the state's going to do, what the state's going to allow, what date they're actually going to have this lottery, what dates applications have to be in. That's part of the problem we have with the whole thing, is it just is jumping through hoops, and we really don't know what's going to come out of any of it. And so I just want to say, I don't know that that's what's going to happen. That was the last piece of rhetoric we heard on it, and so that's what I'm going with for now in my mind. But please don't say that I'm telling you this is exactly what's going to be, because I don't think anybody knows.
Are you suggesting the state could change their mind?
I wouldn't suggest anything of the such.
All right. Any other discussion? Roll call, please. Just a reminder that this is on. This has been amended to include the graduated decommissioning, and also to be in conjunction with the County 173 plan. Roll call, please.
Ray Larson,
No.
Jessica Milner,
Yes.
Marshall Newhouse,
No.
Bernard O'Malley,
Yes.
Brad Stark,
Yes.
Kathy Ward,
Yes.
Carl Johnson,
Yes.
Sherry Bartelt,
Yes.
Jeff Carlisle, Denny Ellingson,
No.
Sherry Gieske,
Yes.
Carl Larson,
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, to 9.6 is a motion to approve ordinance 19-03, case number 27-2018, Capron 1.
Motion by Mr. Ellingson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Milner. Staff report.
Okay, this particular proposal is located adjacent to the village of Capron. Company representatives are here tonight, and I want to point out the same item occurred December 4th, PZB, where before you the motion is the PZB version with the 100% decommissioning. There were some other conditions added at the committee, and those have been added to both the PZB version and the other version, if you recall those conditions.
What were those conditions? Do you know, Ken?
There was a condition, let me find it. There was an agreement on a 170-foot setback from the west and the north, and there was a condition installing a 40-foot solid tile from the east fence line west to the end of the project. I believe there were some other conditions on landscaping that were agreed to as well.
Okay. Discussion from the board. Mr. Ray Larson.
Could we clarify which site map we are dealing with on this one?
We have site 1 and 2. Is it?
Again, there's a northern site, which is depicted on the chart, and I believe that's what this one pertains to. So much like the last two ordinances, there's a northern and a southern footprint.
And these site plans have that 170-foot setback?
Yes, yes.
Ken, which one on our board docs is it?
If you look at revised summary plans, there is an email.
The one with the 170-foot setback?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
And it's right here.
Did that main motion get seconded?
Main motion, yes, got seconded.
Okay,
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Ms. Miller, I'm sorry.
At this time, I'd like to make a motion that we use the language in Ordinance 19-03, in lieu of the 19-03 PZB version. We just use the Ordinance 1903, which includes the tiered decommissioning.
Second.
Okay, amendment by Ms. Milner, seconded by Ms. Gieske. Discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Any further discussion from committee or questions? Just to clarify, so this will be approving the site map with the 170-foot setbacks, Ken?
That is correct.
Okay. Is the applicant here? The applicant like to make any comments? You don't have to run for us, Mr. Noble.
Fair enough. Nathan Noble, 504 North State Street, Belvidere, Illinois, 61008, attorney for the applicant. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just real briefly, I just want to make sure everyone's on the same page because I know there have been some motions made. So what I heard was that a prior version of what's going to be passed was reinstituted. I believe that may have stripped the two requirements that Mr. Terranoni was just reviewing. Was that a true statement? One of them being the hard pipe, which I believe was going to be withdrawn anyway, but I wasn't sure if there was any comments regarding that, Mr. Terranoni. You can't hear?
You can't hear? Can you
Check.
just speak a little louder?
I'll eat the mic. How about that?
That's perfect. Now you're a regular.
To review it
star.
again, yeah, sorry. I should know better. Anyway, the version that you're currently voting on has stripped the two conditions regarding
Those are still in.
the 40-foot solid tile is still in there? Okay. My client would ask that that be removed. I think there was some concern regarding stormwater drainage. My client spoke with Jeff from Soil and Water. Jeff was satisfied that what was previously presented was going to be sufficient, such that that was not going to be required. I thought that was covered at the last meeting, although maybe someone who was there could comment as to that.
Questions, comments? Mr. Newhouse, you.
If it's going to be completely removed, and if there is going to be a vegetative buffer, the tile that's going to be doing the work of keeping that field dry is going to be compromised within a very short amount of time as roots grow into it. You will end up with the wetlands on the property east moving west into the solar field. I was hoping that there would be some discussion that would allow a removal of the solid tile underneath what I believe was going to be an access road there, but still some sort of solid tile near the vegetative buffer that would protect things. Or maybe I misunderstood a conversation. So
No, that's fine. If I may, Mr. Chairman, a member of the applicant who specifically addressed that issue, who is more involved in those discussions, if I may have him sworn in. Or actually, no, sworn in.
He doesn't have to
Just
swear in,
make
but
a comment, sure.
Yeah, we just need his name and address, please.
So Kelton Kelly with EVS Engineering. I'm the civil engineer on the project. My address is 41618 380th Street, St. Peter, Minnesota, 56082. So if you see, the revised plan actually leaves a gap in the vegetative buffer where the drain tile is located. And we've also added a note that requires us to submit this both to the Soil and Water Conservation District and the county engineer, though we have to do that anyways with the SWIP. This plan set specifically calls out that area for special engineering attention to be approved by both those authorities.
Thank you.
So, do we want to remove that solid tile? Or Mr. Carlisle?
Okay, so and excuse me for if I lose my voice here real quickly. So, are you telling me that you submitted this on a plan that we have here, and that it was approved, or this is something that you plan to do, and you're asking us tonight to remove the solid tile?
So the concern with having the solid tile in a zoning ordinance or a conditional use permit is that it's going to require us to do something that engineering-wise might not make sense down the road because that engineering hasn't been done yet. We don't want to back ourselves into a corner because by putting a solid pipe there, we may actually make the water on Tim Shaw's property more of an issue because it's currently collapsed on his property. And so the water is already being backed up onto the property, the parcel in question. And what we've done is we've submitted a 30% plan based on LiDAR topography. So the topography map that's up there is based on very high profile. So there hasn't been a survey done yet. And then we've done a drain tile survey that shows that it's collapsed there, but we haven't done any engineering modeling to show exactly how the water is flowing onto that site. And so what we're just asking is that that not be the condition that be put in because it may not solve the issue. It may make it worse. We may not be able to actually do that as an engineering solution because the Soil and Water Conservation District is concerned about whether or not that's a wetland on Tim Shaw's property and if we can discharge additional water or even lessen the amount of water, we have to keep it exactly the same. And so we've had that conversation just because we don't want to back ourselves into a corner with only having 30% of the engineering completed at this time.
Mr. Carlisle?
If I may have a follow-up, your expectation of estimation of having a tile presentation would be when?
So in the case that this gets selected in the lottery, my company, EVS, would most likely be asked to complete these designs all the way to construction documents. And during that time, we have to submit a stormwater report within our SWIP that's required by law for disturbing the amount of area that we are. And so as our engineering firm does that, we have to consult with Soil and Water Conservation. We have to follow the AIMA, which requires us to do the drain tile study, all of that good stuff. And so basically what we're saying is those studies would be done, including a geological or a geotechnical report seeing what kind of soil is actually on site, would be completed if this gets selected in the lottery. And so then right now we need the conditional use permit to say, yes, it concludes that we can use it as that because of the zoning, but then the rest of the engineering will come as this process goes on after the lottery.
Ms. Miller?
Is there a way that we can reword condition 43 to suggest that the solution for this drainage be determined after the permitting process concludes?
I'm wondering if we couldn't simply add terminology that would state that, it's right now it currently requires that solid pipe. We just simply add something to the effect of unless determined not useful per soil and water and maybe even county engineer. You feel comfortable if we throw you in on that, Justin?
Carl? Yes. Can I stop you?
Mr. Ellingson? Mm-hmm.
I think this whole thing is wrong that we're doing. That part about the solid tile was amended in the motion last time. It was approved there. The whole motion as done was defeated. It didn't pass because it was a 2-2 vote. So to me, no part of that really moves forward. The motion failed, so I don't think that really should even be part of this. And I'm just technically asking for clarification on that, but that's the way it appears to me.
I remember being at that meeting, but I was thinking that those were all voted on separately. I could be wrong.
As amendments to the main motion.
Right. But I was thinking that the drain tile motion passed,
It did, but the main motion failed then. So all parts of that main motion have failed at that point. If it was going to come forward, it should have come to us as the ZBA had it the meeting before, and they did not have that tile part in it, I don't believe.
Mr. Terranoni, any clarification?
I think he might be right. So in other words, it's moot because it isn't in, it shouldn't be in the document in front of you.
Okay. Then I guess my first question then is, what version are we voting on then?
The PZB version would be what came out of the PZB committee. However, it'd be the PZB version without item 43.
Didn't we also do 42 that night? Make the 170 foot.
So it would be the PZB version minus 43 or 42?
I think both.
Because the committee added the 170-foot setback. The committee added the 40-foot solid tile.
So ZBA passed the 250-foot setback version.
Yes.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Is it pertinent that we had a motion to approve, to move forward 19-03 and a second? Does that not supersede any of this conversation? There was a motion and a second to bring this version forward.
But I guess the motion was to add the language. I mean, was it specified that?
Actually, the motion was to bring 19-03 forward at this point, and that's why I did it before there was any discussion of, and nobody had amended the PZB version. So we just I made the motion to bring this one forward clean.
I guess part of the issue would be is if your motion was to add the decommissioning language, or was it to add all of it?
No, it was to just do 1903.
Okay.
Okay. And 1903 has the 170-foot setback, the setback, and the 40-foot tile on it.
It does.
Also. So those would be items that would be added to it and changing the language. So then we're back to the question. Since that is the motion that's been presented, then I guess that answers your question, Denny, that it doesn't matter because she's not using the PZB version. She's brought forward this other version.
Who's brought forward this other version?
Ms. Miller made the motion for 1903.
Right, which is worded up there, which includes number 42 and number 43 in it, as we've had it brought to us.
That's
which it should, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, the 1903 PZB version on our board docs also has that language, but because she didn't bring that one forward, we don't have to worry about it because that failed at PZB. She didn't mention that when she's mentioning this other version. Right? Am I?
Yeah, I mean, I think that then if that's what, and I apologize, I think I was thinking of the last motion on the last case, but if 19.3 was brought forward and everyone agreed to amend, or that was the one that was going forward, then I think 42 and 43 are in there. I think if you want to take them out, then make a motion to remove 42 or 43.
Okay, Mr. Ellingson.
But I'm saying it shouldn't have come forward. That was a mistake. That goes back maybe to the last meeting. Well,
but I think since because she's made a motion on that one, it's one of the options in the ordinances before us. Even though what passed PZB didn't include those. In fact, nothing passed PZB. It didn't come out of PZB with a affirmative vote.
Right.
So then you're right, it would revert to whatever ZBA had sent forward.
Right.
But instead of bringing forward the ZBA version. She's brought forward this version, 1903,
Think you
instead.
think you brought it forward as an amendment, did you not?
No, she,
Because
well...
I made the
no,
main motion,
yeah,
which
she
is
made-
exactly what was here.
Yeah, yeah. You made the main motion on what was here as 1903. She amended it to adopt 19... You made a motion on 1903 PZB.
Yeah.
No? No, yeah, yes. Yes, go ahead, Ken.
The original motion would have been the PZB version. The amendment is to go back to the 1903 version, so that's what's before
To
you.
the ZBA version.
Well,
No,
the-
1903 is not the ZBA version. In reality, what you should have made your motion on should have been on what the ZBA version was,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't. Now, I'm assuming that that's a moot point because we've had an amendment to whatever your motion was to make it this 1903 instead. Would that be correct?
Yes, and then 1903 is what is before you now. Whether it should have been in the PZB version or not, it's moot because that's no longer on the table. It's amended to include the language that's in 1903. So if anyone wants to remove the language or change the language, then you can make a motion to do that now.
I just want to be sure, what setback are you saying is in 1903 then?
170 foot setback.
170 foot.
From the west and north.
But didn't it actually come from ZBA at 270 and we changed that? Or 250 or something?
Well, this ordinance or this motion, this amended motion, changes whatever the CBA did anyway. Yeah. Mr. Newhouse.
All right. I would like to amend condition 43 as it reads up on the board to remove any reference of solid tile and instead place in a gap in the vegetative buffer along the fence line.
Motion by Mr. Newhouse. Is there a second?
Second. Could be clear.
Second by Mr. Stark. Okay, discussion. Mr. Newhouse.
My intent is to protect the tile that's servicing this whole property. If you have a tile exiting the property, you don't want roots growing into it and destroying it. So if you have a vegetative buffer growing over the top of it, tree roots will get in there and destroy it, and it will make an absolute mess out of this project. So if you want to maintain your tile and maintain your drainage, you need to have a gap in the vegetative buffer so that you won't destroy the tile on the property.
Mr. Chairman, there's no problem with that from the applicant's side of things. That works. It's already in the revised plan anyway, so that's fine.
Okay. Any further discussion on the amendment? All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Which amendment would we just vote on?
43.
Okay, but didn't you already have Jessica's that hadn't been voted on yet?
Hers was to... it was voted on. Yeah, that was voted on right when she made it, yeah. To amend the main motion, yes. So this amends the amendment, or the amended version, I should say. Yep. Okay? Ms. Kieske.
I just maybe heard the wrong thing. What I thought I heard from the applicant was that this drainage tile has already been compromised. So what I thought I heard was you wanted to have something in here that said, we know it's compromised, but once we do that complete comprehensive study, then we will address how to do it, how to fix it without, impacting any more. Did I hear that wrong?
No, you're correct. So the issue we have here is that the property to the southeast, Tim Shaw's property, currently has tile, 4-inch clay tile, that was discovered during the tile investigation that's collapsed, which is compromising water flow for the whole system. That's the actual problem right now of any of the water backing up onto our site. What we want to make sure is that when we do go to ensure that water is flowing off of there, that we're meeting any engineering requirements and authorities having jurisdiction requirements, including the Soil and Water Conservation, who spoke at the zoning board meeting, conveying their concern that it could potentially be a wetland and that we can't actually fix anything on it anyways. So that would all need to be determined with further engineering, and it's also all covered in both the AIMA and our requirements as engineers in our SWIP document.
May I follow up, Chairman?
Please.
So what we just voted presupposes that we already know what your investigative study is going to show. I mean, what this county board just voted on. Am I getting that right? That vote says we know what we're going to do, or did I get that wrong? Whereas you're telling us we need to finish the study to figure out what we need to do. We just said, nope, you've got to do this.
So what Marshall had brought up is that there should be a gap so that the tile isn't compromised after construction.
It's already
because
in here.
There's a vegetative screen. It's already in there. There's a gap shown on the most updated plan set, and that plan set in front of you should have a date of 12/17, I believe, on it. And so that would ensure that you have the right copy.
Mr. Newhouse?
The intent of my motion was to remove any reference to the tile at all so they could do what they need to do.
Mr. Larson?
Condition number 3 is about the drain tiles, and it says if damaged, they shall be repaired or restored. So no matter what, even if the vegetative buffer does damage it, they still have to restore it. So there's basically no need for number 43 at all.
Okay, anything further? Any further discussion? Okay, roll call on the main motion.
Jessica Milner,
Yes.
Marshall Newhouse,
No.
Bernard O'Malley,
Yes.
Brad Stark,
Yes.
Kathy Ward,
Yes.
Carl Johnson,
Yes.
Sherry Bartelt,
Yes.
Jeff Carlisle,
Yes.
Denny Ellingson,
No.
Sherry Gieske,
Yes.
Carl Larson,
Yes.
Ray Larson.
No.
Motion carries. Mr. Ellingson?
I'm sorry, I'm deep in thought. 9.7 is a motion to approve ordinance 1904, case 28-2018, Capron 2.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Ellingson, seconded by Mr. Newhouse. Staff report.
Okay, same thing where the PZB version has the decommissioning that would have come out of the Zoning Board of Appeals, and because it does have condition 42 and 43, those were done at committee, but the whole motion failed 2-2, so that really shouldn't be there. Same as before. This is just the southern footprint of the same company, same developer, the southern portion of this solar array.
Okay. Mr. Ellingson.
Because it is an improper motion, but it was on there, so I really had to read it, why can't we take this one back out of the books? And then you've got one as it came forward from the ZBA, and we've got 42 and 43 are not included in it, but it does go back to a different setback that we had in the ZBA. But it appears to me all those things need to be done before we've got even a proper motion to bring forward here tonight.
I think your motion is still correct. It's still a motion to approve ordinance 1904, case 2018, Capron 2. So that, I think, is still good. What we have to clarify from staff is exactly what version is the version that's supposed to be brought forward that we need to debate, amend, and discuss upon.
But I'm saying this is not the version because it's got 42 and 43 in it, and it should not.
I know. I think Mr. Terranoni just said that those should be stricken from this. So we can't strike it because it's already been loaded on, but everyone understands that the motion that was just brought forward by you does not include 42 and 43, is what Mr. Terranoni just advised.
Okay,
So,
but should
so it's still a motion
And if it should
to
have
approve
something
this
else,
project.
Then that needs to be added, whatever was
Okay.
from ZBA.
It seemed the motion I read would include those without somebody making a motion to take them out of it.
I don't think he's not making a motion to take them out. He's just clarifying that those should be stricken. They were put there in error.
But if we approve it, they'll still be there.
No, they won't, because it's on record that those items are stricken from what you're looking at. They were put there inadvertently.
So then you're saying we have no setback on this recommendation at all?
Everything reverts to what the ZBA brought forward, because this failed at PZB.
Maybe
Okay,
Mr.
I
Terranoni could just clarify if there should be something added that wasn't in here then. 42 and 43 should be struck, and then
It's defaulting to whatever the ZBA had for setbacks.
Do you know what that
everyone-
was?
I believe it's 250, but I really need to check that. I really don't want to be on the record with that right now.
How long does that take to check?
2 minutes.
Can you do that for us?
Yes.
Okay. Let's take a 3-minute break here real quick and let Mr. Terranoni clarify.
So much fun.
Mr. Newhouse. Now, here's where we're at. We did not input Ordinance 1904 into that motion because Ordinance 1904 does not exist, so to speak, from either ZBA or PZB, because this project was voted down by both committees. So, what we're left at, if we approve it exactly the way it's been moved right now or brought forward, it would be with a 40-foot setback and very minimal conditions to it. I don't think that's what we want to do. I think we want to be consistent with the previous portion of this project, which, if you do look at board docs, there's an ordinance 1904. There's also an ordinance 1904 PZB version, along with other things. We could amend the motion to add one of those two ordinances to this. That would then bring it more closely with all the other projects that we currently have. We can let it move forward the way it is with 40-foot setbacks and basically no conditions. I'll throw it to you guys. What's the desire of the board? Ms. Milner.
I would make a motion that we use the language in Ordinance 19-04.
So a motion to amend by Ms. Milner to use version 1904. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Gieske. Discussion, Mr. Ellingson.
I think you just told me there was no ordinance 1904, so how can we use the words that are 1904?
To make the original motion, there is no 1904 that came forward from somebody.
Yeah.
But we do have a version that's been put on board docs that we can reference so that we could utilize that.
Okay,
Am I
so
correct?
which one is it we're going to use?
The version ordinance 19-04, not version 1904 PZB version, correct?
Yes.
Ms. Milner.
I would also like to further amend
Well, we got it.
okay.
We've already made an amendment in second,
Yeah,
so
okay.
we'll have to vote on that first. Okay.
right
Any
along.
further discussion on this amendment? Ms. Gieske.
I'm just, it says case number 20-2018 Capron 2 on here.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay,
It's
so
on item 9.7.
Okay, so we originally said just Capron, so Capron 2.
Capron 2, just to clarify,
I'm
correct.
taking, you know what, out of pepper here.
There you go. Okay. Any other discussion? So just to clarify, we are voting on motion on item 9.7. It's case number 28-2018, Capron 2, solar farm. And there's been an amendment to utilize language listed as ordinance 19-04 on board docs. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Ms. Milner.
I would like to make a motion that we eliminate condition 43 from this amendment, from this ordinance.
Motion by Ms. Milner. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Stark. I'm going to refresh my memory. Mr. Newhouse.
One of the items, and I would ask planning staff or Ken, if that's your title at the moment, if 43 is removed, that will remove any reference of the solid tile, and that's great. But is there another condition that will stipulate there will be a vegetative buffer around that neighbor's property with a gap around the existing tile, or is that ever stated in any of the other conditions?
I think we're best clarifying it right on the spot now with the applicant. If they understand that and can agree to it, it'll be here.
So we do understand that that's what's shown on the most recent version. I think Mr. Newhouse's attempt here is to ensure that there's some sort of language that holds us to that that buffer being along Tim Shaw's property. So if you wanted to add that as a condition, that would be all right.
Do you want to amend the amendment?
I would.
Mr. Newhouse?
I would amend the amendment to add that there should be a vegetative buffer on the north side and the west side of the southeast property owners with a gap over the tile.
Motion by Mr. Newhouse. Is there a second?
A second.
Second by Mr. Larson. Ms. Miller?
Condition 7 requires already that there is a vegetative buffer around the perimeter of the property, so this is redundant.
The amendment.
Any further discussion? Okay. This is a vote to amend Ms. Milner's amendment. We're going to adding language to it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Roll call, please.
Marshall Newhouse,
This is
Yes.
on the amendment. This is on the amendment to the amendment.
Yes. Hate being the first one.
What is, would you go back and tell me, what is the
Okay.
amendment? Not this one.
The amendment that Ms. Milner had was to strike item 43, which states install a 40-foot solid tile from east fence line to west to end of project. And then she is striking that language, but Mr. Newhouse is adding that there'll be a vegetative buffer and a gap over the tile in that buffer. Okay? So we're amending her amendment, adding language to it. Okay? So go ahead, roll call.
Marshall Newhouse,
Yes.
Bernard O'Malley,
Yes.
Brad Stark,
No.
Kathy Ward,
No.
Carl Johnson,
Yes.
Sherry Bartelt,
No.
Jeff Carlisle,
Yes.
Denny Ellingson,
I abstained.
Sherry Gieske,
No.
Carl Larson,
Yes.
Ray Larson,
Aye.
Jessica Milner.
No.
Motion carries. Now we'll vote on the amendment as amended with that added language. Yeah. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Any further discussion on this? Is everyone clear what version we're on? Mr. Ray Larson.
Hold on just a second here.
Okay, well.
Hold on just a minute. Go ahead if someone.
All right. Applicant has something?
I just want to make sure that I heard that the graduated scale is going to be adopted as part of this.
No, that's what
Okay.
The graduated scale for the decommissioning?
Yes.
Yes, that's part of version
sure. No, excuse me.
1904. Yes, Mr. Larson?
That is not it. I was going to possibly ask Ms. Milner if she'd like to add that because it's not written on there. It's still at 100%.
No, in decommissioning plan on 1904,
I believe I'm looking at it here.
version 1904 is decommissioning plan. Item 23 is 10%, then 50%, then 100%.
Maybe I have the wrong one.
You might be on 1904 PZB version.
What is? I thought Part C is what we were changing there before.
No, you have to go further.
This is version 1904, which has the graduated decommissioning.
Okay.
Look at A and B, too.
I was skipping over A and B. Sorry.
Okay. Okay.
Just wanted to make sure that that was in there.
Okay. All right. Any further discussion, questions? Mr. Ellingson.
Is, I guess, article number 42 included in this now?
42. 42 is there, correct. And that's a 170-foot setback, which is consistent with the previous project. Any further discussion? Would the applicant like to say anything else? Okay. Roll call, please. This is for the overall motion to approve the project.
Bernard O'Malley,
Yes.
Brad Stark,
Yes.
Kathy Ward,
Yes.
Carl Johnson.
Yes.
Sherry Bartelt,
Yes.
Jeff Carlisle,
Yes.
Denny Ellingson,
Abstained.
Sherry Giesecke,
Yes.
Carl Larson,
Yes.
Ray Larson,
No.
Jessica Muehlner,
Yes.
Marshall Newhouse.
No.
Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. Mr. Ellingson.
Now on to 9.8, a motion to approve ordinance 19-05, case number 32-2018, Kish 1.
Motion by Mr. Ellingson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Milner. Just to clarify for everybody, this passed ZBA 4-0, and it passed PZB 3-2, so we should not have any of these issues. Staff report.
Okay, this is a solar project, Cypress Creek Development, which has another project that you've already approved in Boone County. This is located west of Wheeler Road, north of Rosetta Road in Flora Township. So the version before you is the version. It has the graduated decommissioning because that is what came out of the PZB committee. And we do have company representatives here tonight to speak to it.
Questions of staff? Would the applicant like to say anything?
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is David Stryker. I'm counsel for Cypress Creek Renewables, the applicant.
Could you also give us your address, please?
Yes, my address is 150 North Riverside Plaza, Chicago, Illinois.
Thank you.
Thank you to staff and members of the board for seeing us through this process. A couple of quick comments. One, we were happy to have the support of the county engineer, the county's outside engineer on this project, the support of the ZBA, the support of the PZB, and we do also support the conditions as proposed coming out of the PZB. With that, thank you very much, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Questions for the applicant? Looks like you got it easy tonight. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Brad Stark,
Yes.
Kathy Ward,
Yes.
Carl Johnson,
Yes.
Sherry Bartelt,
Yes.
Jeff Carlisle,
Yes.
Denny Ellingson,
No.
Sherry Giesecke,
Yes.
Carl Larson,
Yes.
Ray Larson,
Aye.
Jessica Muehlner,
Yes.
Marshall Newhouse,
No.
Bernard O'Malley.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, 9.9 is a motion to approve ordinance 19-06, case number 33-2018, Kish 2.
Second. Motion by Mr. Ellingson, seconded by Mr. Stark. Staff report.
This is the second footprint, same development, called Kish 2. This is located west of Wheeler Road, north of Rosetta Road in Flora Township. This passed the ZBA 4-0, PZB 3-2. Company representatives are here tonight to answer questions.
Any further comments on this one? No, thank you. Any discussion? Roll call.
Kathy Ward,
Yes.
Carl Johnson.
Yes.
Sherry Bartelt,
Yes.
Jeff Carlisle,
Yes.
Denny Ellingson,
No.
Sherry Gieske,
Yes.
Carl Larson,
Yes.
Ray Larson,
Aye.
Jessica Mueller,
Yes.
Marshall Newhouse,
No.
Bernard O'Malley,
Yes.
Brad Stark.
Yes.
Motion carries.
9.10, motion to approve ordinance 19-07, case number 34-2018, Ogdenville.
Motion by Mr. Ellingson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Carlisle. Staff report.
Okay, this project is the same company, Cypress Creek. It is located, if you recall, the DeLong proposal in Garden Prairie. This is located on that footprint of land. The two projects, the DeLong Rail and the solar, they're completely separate projects. So this particular proposal is not contingent on the DeLong project happening or not happening. The ordinance came out of the PZB committee, a 3-2 vote, so it has the graduated decommissioning, and the conditions are all the same as the other projects that you've approved.
Thank you. Questions for staff? The applicant like to say anything?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Again, thank you to staff and the members. My name is David Stryker, 150 North Riverside Plaza, Chicago, Illinois, counsel for Cypress Creek. Thank you for your consideration of this project. We were happy to have the support of, in this case, the Regional Planning Commission, the Zoning Board, and the PZB, and we would support the conditions as established by the PZB. Thank you very much, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Questions for the applicant, Mr. Newhouse?
Just to follow up on one of the items at PZB, it's my understanding from your discussion that whether it is the current owner or the potential future owner, this project is acceptable to both of them.
I believe that is correct. Yes, that is correct.
Thank you.
Further questions? Mr. Ellingson?
Let me ask again, how many acres will this project entail?
The project itself is, the SUP application is 33.5 acres. Of that, we expect 19 acres to be improved.
Any further questions? Thank you very much. Any further discussion from committee? Roll call, please.
Carl Johnson,
Yes.
Sherry Bartelt,
Yes.
Jeff Carlisle,
Yes.
Denny Ellingson,
No.
Sherry Gieske,
Yes.
Carl Larson,
Yes.
Ray Larson,
No.
Jessica Mueller,
Yes.
Marshall Newhouse,
No.
Bernard O'Malley,
Yes.
Brad Stark,
Yes.
Kathy Ward.
Yes.
Motion carries. Mr. Ellingson, are you
No.
done or you want to keep going?
We're done.
You sure?
We're done.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Ms.
I'd
Ward.
just like to ask a question. How many more of these projects do we have coming up through the pipeline?
Go ahead, Ken.
We have two more. We just had the ZBA hearing on them last night, so you'll be looking at those at the January meeting.
Okay, two more.
Ms. Gieske, are you still awake over there?
No.
Okay.
Item 10.1 is the motion to approve claims with the understanding that Carl Johnson abstains from voting on all claims presented by William Charles and Denny Ellingson abstains from voting on all claims presented by Conserv FS. This was approved in committee 5-0.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Geeske, seconded by Mr. Carlisle. Discussion. Roll call.
Sherry Bartell,
Yes.
Jeff Carlisle,
Yes.
Denny Ellingson,
Yes.
Sherry Geeske,
Yes.
Carl Larson,
Yes.
Ray Larson,
Aye.
Jessica Muehlner,
Yes.
Marshall Newhouse,
Yep.
Bernard O'Malley,
Yes.
Brad Stark,
Yes.
Kathy Ward,
Yes.
Carl Johnson.
Yes. Motion carries.
Item 10.2 is a motion to approve a proposal from Region 1 for grant writing services to obtain grant funding from the Federal Economic Development Administration. This, too, was approved in committee 5-0, and it is a budgeted item.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Geeske, seconded by Mr. Carlisle. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Jeff Carlisle,
Yes.
Denny Ellingson,
Yes.
Sherry Geeske,
Yes.
Carl Larson,
Yes.
Ray Larson,
Aye.
Jessica Muehlner,
Yes.
Marshall Newhouse,
Yes.
Bernard O'Malley,
Yes.
Brad Stark,
Yes.
Kathy Ward,
Yes.
Carl Johnson,
Yes.
Sherry Bartell.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item 10.3 is a motion to approve Resolution 19-01 for services of the State's Attorney Appellate Prosecutor. This, too, was approved 5-0.
Motion by Ms. Geeske, seconded by
Second.
Mr. Carlisle. Discussion. Roll call.
Denny Ellingson,
Yes.
Sherry Geeske,
Yes.
Carl Larson,
Yes.
Ray Larson,
Aye.
Jessica Muehlner,
Yes.
Marshall Newhouse,
Yes.
Bernard O'Malley,
Yes.
Brad Stark,
Yes.
Kathy Ward,
Yes.
Carl Johnson,
Yes.
Sherry Bartelt,
Yes.
Jeff Carlisle.
Yes.
Motion carries. Ms. Geeske, anything else?
Nope, that's it for finance.
Mr. Stark.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 11.1, motion to approve resolution 19-02 to appropriate MFT funds in the amount of $415,000 for maintenance on various county roads.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Stark, seconded by Mr. Ellingson. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Sherry Geeske,
Yes.
Carl Larson,
Yes.
Ray Larson,
Aye.
Jessica Muehlner,
Yes.
Marshall Newhouse,
Yes.
Bernard O'Malley,
Yes.
Brad Stark,
Yes.
Kathy Ward,
Yes.
Carl Johnson,
Yes.
Sherry Bartelt,
Yes.
Jeff Carlisle,
Yes.
Denny Ellingson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
11.2, motion to approve an agreement for Phase 2 engineering services in the amount of $237,971 with Hanson Engineering for Poplar Grove Road Bridge.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Stark, seconded by Ms. Geeske. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Carl Larson,
Yes.
Ray Larson,
Aye.
Jessica Muehlner,
Yes.
Marshall Newhouse,
Yes.
Bernard O'Malley,
Yes.
Brad Stark,
Yes.
Kathy Ward,
Yes.
Carl Johnson,
Yes.
Sherry Bartelt,
Yes.
Jeff Carlisle,
Yes.
Denny Ellingson,
Yes.
Sherry Geeske.
Yes.
Motion carries.
11.3, motion to approve engineering services agreement with Hutchinson in the amount of $14,400 for intersection design work and application for HSIP grant at Poplar Grove Road and Squaw Prairie Road intersection.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Stark, seconded by Mr. Ellingson. Any discussion?
Yes.
Ms. Ward.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, tonight I had hoped to make an amendment to this motion to install the four-way stop, as our people out there have asked us for years and years. However, our state's attorney says you can't do that because it's not on the agenda. So we can't do that tonight because I think that would be a quick and easy way to help this intersection, as we have seen happen at Orth and Beloit and also on the Caledonia Road. So my question is, for the $14,400, I would rather, we can send this back to Mr. Stark's committee that I serve on and discuss it again and hopefully get those stop signs up. But my question to Mr. Crone is, the $14,000 that we're spending, can't we hold off on that study? We don't have $14,000. The state doesn't have $14,000. Certainly the feds don't have $14,000. can't we try to put up 2 stop signs, and if that doesn't work, then proceed with the study? Or why is it important that we proceed with this study now?
Yeah, I don't recommend holding off on it. This $14,000 will get you a study and the application, HSIP application. So the HSIP application is the Highway Safety Improvement Program application. That is due in March. It's a very technical application document. I've talked to IDOT already about our situation on Poplar Grove Road in Squaw Prairie, and they're very confident. In fact, I'm very confident as well that we would receive a grant money for construction, and it's 90% funded, so we match at 10%.
Ms. Ward, go ahead.
Can we still put the stop signs up even though the study is underway?
Yeah, you asked that same question in committee, and my answer at that time was I would prefer not to. I think it would impact the application. I further evaluated that, and I contacted IDOT and also Hutchinson, that they've done a lot of these programs. And my response at that time with the committee, I'd like to revise that back to you, is that it sounds like it could impact it, but it's not necessarily. I thought it was more likely to impact it. It may not. So, in other words, if you do choose to approve this application process and this study, and in the meantime, we do put in traffic control devices based on a board action, then it may not impact that application. It may not. I thought for sure it would, but
it might not.
I would revise that, saying that it might not, based on the responses I got from IDOT and from our a consultant. So,
thank you for that clarification.
Yep.
Okay.
Mr. Larson.
What would be the possible estimated time frame for maybe if all of this were to go through before completion of possibly then putting these stop signs in?
If I go, so the route that I prefer to take would be, through the federal Highway Administration has MUTC, the Manual and Uniform Traffic Control Devices, and that is the guidance that I use and most engineers use to determine whether it's a signalized intersection, a two-way stop, four-way stop, different conditions at traffic control at that intersection. Going through that process, we're doing some of the work in-house to keep the costs lower. In fact, I've been out there. We've been doing a lot of data collection, so we're trying to do most of it as much as we can in-house. I would the grant application is due in March, and selection would take place in summer of 2019, and the project, barring unforeseen circumstances, would be completed in 2020, which would be also the year that we anticipate completing the Poplar Grove Road Bridge and the improvements to the Lawrenceville intersection as well. So that's what I would see. Like I said, if the board takes action quicker and implements something on a separate separate plan of action than its engineering study, then obviously we can do that quicker. I don't support that, but if the board so chooses, then I would obviously comply with that and do what I could to make sure that whatever the board chooses, I will do is implement as safely as possible.
I could follow up there. You mentioned the bridge there on Poplar Grove Road. Would that be shut down at any time during the next year? Or?
It will, not in 2019. So the plan, we just received our Phase 1 completion and approval. So we scooted by without any muscles, I guess, apparently, in this section of the Kish. But so Phase 1 is good. So our environmental permits and all the permitting process has been completed. So what you voted on tonight was to do the Phase 2, which is the construction and design documents. I've got a commitment from the engineering firm Hanson that we've chosen to have those completed and go out to bid and do our award November 8th of 2019. So hopefully that timing is good, so that, and this has all been coordinated with both Dean Foods and General Mills and the city of Belvidere. So we would go out to bid on in November of 2019, and the majority of the construction would take place in 2020. Perhaps some demo in once we get a little bit further in the process. I've been, like I said, I've been keeping our partners there in the loop, and once we get further on, based on their production cycle at Dean Foods and General Mills, we're going to probably put some wording in our contract as far as the duration that the bridge can be closed, but it will be the summer of 2019 and possibly early summer of 2019. Usually get better prices when you do it early, so we're going to go out to bid in November and hopefully get some good prices, and they can tackle it right away in the spring.
Ms. Kieske?
Back to the Squaw Prairie Poplar Grove thing. I don't presuppose to know that putting stop signs is the best thing to do. I might suggest a much more efficient way to help that intersection is to have a deputy sheriff there ticketing these people that fly out there. And since we voted down the public safety referendum last year, we don't have the funds to do that. So as we go to the ballot box and start voting for these things, sometimes we need to look beyond, one singular thing. So I would suggest that we see if the sheriff can possibly use a couple of deputies and put them there. And I think that might nip a whole lot of this in the bud until or unless we let the highway engineer, who knows, has the expertise, because I surely don't. And I'm one that drives that road all the time, so I know.
Mr. Go ahead, Justin.
I just would like to, so during our committee roads meeting, this was discussed at length, and I just would like to, I sent out a memo and to the committee to further clarify my statements, and I'd like to just briefly touch on a few things of that memo. I won't take up too much time; it's getting kind of late. But so the one thing that I would like to, so the memo's up on the board there. We have been very active, and while Pam is tough to deal with sometimes, I do appreciate that, and I think that you've done helped us do some positive improvements out there. The few things that we have done, we've done a speed study out there on both Squaw Prairie and Poplar Grove Road. We've done counts, and we continue to do those. So those are, those, a lot of times you hear bureaucracy, and it's hard to do changes and stuff, but there's certain reasons for things. I'm probably the least bureaucratic of a lot of engineers, and I'm trying to do some changes as quickly as possible. So some of the changes that we have implemented out there, and I do believe that we've done about as much as I can do, and I think the impacts are high and the costs are low. If you go out there, you'll notice them. We've added an additional stop sign. So when you pull up traditionally, you have a stop sign on your right side. Through the MUTCD guidelines, if you do have an intersection such as this, you can do these things that I'm going to speak of. We put a stop sign on the left side with a flashing beacon and the reflective panel down the post. So we've done that on both sides too. In addition to that stop sign, there's a black on yellow advisory: oncoming traffic does not stop, or I'm sorry, cross traffic does not stop. We've also added on Poplar Grove itself. I think one of the things, like Ms. Gieske had referred to, is the speed out there, and people fly down there, and I've talked to the sheriff about that to try to reduce that down. So one thing that we've done from the highway standpoint is we, at the intersection head signs, the advisory signs, the diamonds, black on yellow, intersection signs, we've added a flashing beacon, a yellow flashing beacon, to bring attention to that. And we've also added 45-mile-per-hour advisory signs to try to reduce that speed at that intersection. So we think that'll help. And then another item that we just did, actually, on the 18th of this, so earlier this week, we put out 24-inch stop bars. Those are the pavement markings, 24-inch line at the stop sign, so that further reminds, as you're sitting at that intersection and you're looking across the intersection on Squaw Prairie Road, you see a stop bar over there. You're sitting on a stop bar. You don't see any stop bars on the cross traffic. So all these things are reminders of what the public, the traveling public needs to do at those intersections. So we're continuing to do these items, and I do believe that studies have shown that all of these things that we've implemented. I've talked to IDOT. I said, and I've explained the situation. I said, yeah, you're doing everything you should be doing, and then the next step is to do this study. And like I said, we can most likely get this grant. I'm very confident. I hate to make guarantees. I think one of the first mistakes I made was the guarantee of Poplar Grove Road bridge being done over Kishwaukee. And fortunately enough, we got lucky and we did. That's looking like it's going to happen. But I'm very, very confident that we will get a 90% funding if we do approve and go for this grant. And one of the things that we can do, one additional step that this grant can help us do, is realign these roads. So Squaw Prairie Road, right now they come in, they're offset. It's just the way that the original survey is done on section lines. So these are built on section lines, 1 mile lines. And the east section of Squaw Prairie Road is built on the south of the section line, and then the west section is on north. So the right-of-way is offset. So if we can align those and have that intersection come in, independent of what traffic control device we put out there, and a lot of these things are independent of that, we can have a safe intersection. So, and that's the goal of all of us. So that's just a few items I wanted to mention.
Mr. O'Malley might have been first, but then I'd like to make a comment.
Oh, go ahead, Mr. O'Malley. Sorry.
I was out there today looking in the trees. When you're heading east on Squaw Prairie, the trees to the north totally block the road view. You sit there at the stop sign, if you're back just a little, you cannot see that road at all. I don't know if that, it looks like they're on our right-of-way. They're quite tall state trees, and they totally block the view. My other thing is, if you put a four-way stop there, you're going to change the flow on other roads. The people are avoiding Woodstock and they're avoiding 76 and 20 because of all the stop signs. Other intersections are going to become a problem. These are the things I don't know. I think that's why you really need a study to know what's going on.
Go ahead. And yeah, we do tree trimming, and we just completed a tree trimming process. In fact, with Pam's help, I'd like to go to the neighbor there and see if we can do some additional tree trimming that is on the right-of-way line, and typically that's what we do. Another item that I missed here it hits on Bernie's point, is that when you do put on traffic control devices, you change traffic patterns, and we try to look at a whole traffic system, not necessarily just a point, and we want to see what the impacts are on the whole system and make the whole system safer for everybody, rather than you could theoretically remove that intersection, and certainly it would be a safe location, but then you're pushing that traffic onto other portions of your transportation system. So with saying that, with the transportation system, like I said, I'll try to be real brief, but you've got different classifications of roads. You've got toll roads, you've got major arterials, minor arterials, major collectors, minor collectors, and local roads. With our county system, the highest level road that we have is a minor arterial. And in fact, Poplar Grove Road is a minor arterial. The bypass is a major arterial, and that's a state route. And these classifications, when you go from the top, the tollway, that's interstate system, is the main purpose of that is mobility. And so you got two things that play into these classifications. You got mobility and you've got access. When you've got high mobility, you've got low access. So on the tollway, your access is limited to exit ramps, on and off ramps, but you've got high mobility. High mobility basically means that you can get from point A to point B a high volume of traffic at a high rate of speed quickly and efficiently, but your access is limited. Where on a local road, you have the opposite. Your rate of speed is typically reduced, but you have high access. Anybody can get a driveway permit or a field permit and get access onto that road. And so Squaw Prairie Road is classified as a local road. And so that is intended to have high access, not high mobility, where Poplar Grove Road is intended to have high mobility, reduced access. So that's another part of the equation, our total transportation system equation that we look at as well. So,
Ms. Ward.
I just have 2 questions. How long will this study take to complete?
the study, we will have it done by March. I've got a commitment, part of my contract with the consultant. I said that they need to have it done before the March application deadline.
And the second question, have you talked also to Belvidere and Bonus Townships that are, on the other side, how they feel about this?
I have. In fact, I'm sorry I failed to mention that. They're on board with it. Not only are they on board with it theoretically, they are on board with it financially. So our portion of the study is actually 50%. 25% would be paid for by Bonus Township and 25% by Belvidere Township.
Thank you. Okay.
Mr. Ellingson.
Yeah, the one other thing, I think that maybe try and help impact the situation a little bit while all this is going on. I would think it might be wise to go back and ask Belvidere Township if they would consider putting the rumble strips back on coming from the west. It appears to me that a lot of the problems we're seeing are distracted drivers. And if you do something to get their attention, and if they're playing with their phone or if they're, falling asleep, I don't think all the signage in the world is going to do it. But if they hit bumps all of a sudden, that tends to jar a lot of people's minds. And I guess I just wonder if that wouldn't be a help to try and make that a little bit safer until we get this other study done and can move forward.
Go ahead.
Yes, I have actually spoke with them on that very subject and asked them, and ultimately it is in their jurisdiction, their right away. Mike Dixon is aware of that request. He's aware that they were out there at one point and they were taken away based on complaints. So, so it's a tough situation. So, from our standpoint, we put the additional stop signs in, the additional flashers in. So, yeah, I mean it's lit up like a Christmas tree out there right now. Yep. It's substantially different. In fact, IDOT tends to not want us to do that too much because then you get immune to. So you go to an intersection like we have out there now, and then you go to one that just has a sole stop sign. You tend to get people start running those because you don't have double flat. You don't have all this other activity going on. So you do all these safety things, but then you end up hurting another situation that doesn't have those safety implementations on there. So, but yeah, no, I'll bring that up to him again. I don't have a lot of control over what he can do in his jurisdiction.
Mr. Newhouse.
Justin, coming from the east on Squaw Prairie into that intersection on the way to the board meeting tonight, I want to say thank you for the work you've done. You've done it in a hurry, and I think you've been very responsible for what you've done. And I will be supporting this motion to move forward with this grant. My one issue, though, is that as I was seated in my car at the new white line on the east side of that intersection, and I looked north to see what's on Poplar Grove Road, all I had was the neighbor's fence there. And I had a hard time seeing the road, so it's just a few issues going on with the neighbors, too, and properties and what type of improvements they've got around it. So there's a lot of things between the trees that Bernie was addressing, and now if I'm going to obey stopping at that line, I'm going to have potentially an issue with the fence obstructing views north also.
Yeah, that line is not necessarily so the MUTC guidelines. You cannot put that line any closer than 4 feet to the edge of the oncoming traffic, and then they don't want it any further than 30 feet away. So it's not. It's intended to same as the stop sign. It's actually just in front of the stop sign, and so same condition. If you were to stop at the stop sign, it's a device to promote you to stop, and then you're expected to inch out to improve your visibility. So, but yeah, I'll hopefully work with Pam on the neighbors if we can do anything off-site or off right away, and we can work together and do kind of improvements there. And all of these improvements will bode well to independent with whatever the outcome of the study is or the outcome of the board direction. You know, it'll all these improvements will all be maintained through that process.
Anything further from the board? Mr. Stark?
Can we have Ms. Gustafson speak?
Yeah,
She's been a big part of this all along.
Yeah, I'm getting there. I just want to make sure the board doesn't have anything else.
I'll go before Ms. Gustafson, if that's
Sure.
okay.
Sure.
I was out there this morning before work in the dark. Took about 20 minutes driving around from all four corners, and the lights that are on the yellow signs on Poplar Grove Road, as soon as you come out of Belvidere, cross over the E-by, you can see the flashing light. Coming southbound, you can see it as soon as you get on that hill south of North Road. Same way coming east and west, you can see it from Grange Hall, eastbound, you can see it westbound from 76. I mean, if you don't see the flashing lights and know that something's going on there, I don't know what else we can do. But I asked Mr. Crone today on the phone how much we've spent so far, and he said, well, $1,500. And I think we've gotten there's a lot of bang there for that $1,500 for the work that he's done with the stop bars, the lights, the additional signs, and it's all, I believe, steps in the right direction. I look forward to going through this at committee. I wish some of the committee members, if they felt that a four-way stop was appropriate, I wish they would have addressed that more so at the last committee meeting, so we can be taking more positive action now, but we can't change that. So I look forward to moving forward with this grant, improving our infrastructure, especially on this corridor where we're doing the bridge and the other intersection at Lawrenceville and Poplar Grove. I think it's a good thing for a growing corridor in our county, and I'd love to hear what Ms. Gustafson has. She's been such a part of this.
Okay, Mr. Larson.
Quick question for Justin here. On some roads, I've seen it written on the pavement, "Stop ahead" with the reflective white paint. Is that a possibility, and does it actually improve anything?
Yeah, nope, that's a really good point. In fact, we just took the step. I convinced the salesperson with the markings to actually hand deliver them, and just said, because we'd never been his customer before, and so we got them quickly, and it was just a matter of convenience and getting something out there quick and getting something down. But I think that's a good point. The big letters. I mean, that's a little more expensive, but if it helps and reduce the traffic, yeah, anything, we'll look at that.
Anything further from the board? Ms. Gustafson, if you'd like to use the microphone, please.
Okay, I just have three people to address. Ms. Gieske, your comment about, oh my God, you mentioned something about the intersection, and you go by there all the time.
Yeah. Well, I made a couple of things, if I might.
Please.
Yes. Let's see, I suggested that we put a deputy sheriff there for
Oh,
a
yes,
while.
that's okay.
And start writing some tickets.
Okay.
The other thing I said was I come down that road all the time, and people come flying out into that intersection. I've had to brake many times, but I'm going north and south, and then you've got the east-west. I think the other thing I suggested is that we look at lots of other options, which I've been delighted with this conversation here because there's a whole lot of options here to make things better for you. It sounds to me like, with everybody weighing in on some of this stuff. I don't know if I covered
You did.
your
You
question.
did. It was it was having a deputy sheriff out there. Now, my question is, and I have offered this 100 times, not really, to the sheriff, that they're more than welcome to use my driveway. See, the problem is, where would you suggest that a park out there? It's all open. They could park in my yard, and probably nobody'd see them. But if I might, I don't think they have to be hidden. I think it might help more if they're seen. But people are going to slow down. Well, that's good. Well, yeah, but then when they're not there, people, it's just human nature. When they see a police car, they're going to slow down.
I'm going to give an example. At Capron Road and Hunter, I know for a fact, early in the morning, because my husband goes that way, people flying through that intersection on Hunter Road like mad. Until we whispered in the sheriff's ear, and he started picking people off, and it stopped. So, no, is it going to solve everything? Because sadly, there's people out there that don't follow rules, they don't pay attention to laws, and so the rest of us have to sort of adapt. But would it nip things in the bud for a little while? Would it make people start? Because it's the same people driving in there probably most of the time, skirting around Belvidere. So, no, is it